Self-quarantine, no problem. I'm not a tool bag, so I have no problem, staying away from the general public while we're in the middle of a pandemic, spring breakers. I'm out here to protect myself and my fellow mankind. We've got plenty to do inside. Let's do this. Cooking. Some yoga. Taking a moment to enjoy the great outdoors. I just stepped in a puddle. Figuring out who the Zodiac Killer is. I think it was a Scorpio. Reading a book. Doing laundry. Completing the link to my March Madness poll, which is down below. I've only killed 5 minutes. If you're like me, you probably don't have any problem staying inside during this scarier time of the coronavirus. However, if you are what we call an extrovert, you might be struggling a little bit more with this, but luckily for you, there is plenty of content out there that could maybe make this time pass a little bit better. I definitely recommend, of course, staying inside for all of this. All of these activities, things to do, are very much feasible from the inside of your home. In fact, most of them would probably be more difficult if you were not home to experience them. Binge watching. It's been around since before Netflix and chill was a form of the human vernacular. Those were better days. But we've got plenty of Star Wars content to watch. I mean, it started as a watchable piece of media back in 1977 and has since created quality watchable cookies to watch. So first up, we have the live-action Star Wars media to consume. And once you decide whether you're going to watch it in chronological order or if you're going to watch it in release order, then it becomes, how much time is this going to take up? Well, I have the answers for you. So this is going to be without breaks. No breaks, so you have to consider that, it might not seem like that much time, but you have to eat, poop, and sleep at some point, and hopefully shower. I mean, I know you're stuck in your house, but you don't need to you don't need to gas yourself. Don't need to make yourself pass out. No reason for that, or your family members, if you have any. So if you were to watch every single live-action Star Wars movie in one sitting, no eating, no sleeping, no pooping, no peeing, no anything else that you gotta do, I mean, unless you're a droid, this is something you eventually have to do. But if you were to do that, it would clock in at 1 day, 4 hours, and 10 minutes. Now, mind you, what does that include? That includes episodes 1 through 9, of course, and Rise of Skywalker is available on demand now, so this becomes a more feasible thing. It includes 1 through 9, as well as the 2 live-action Ewok movies. If you thought you were escaping those, guess again. Another piece of live-action Star Wars media, though it does not technically count as a movie, is the Star Wars Holiday Special. So you can have some extra fun in your life. I mean, depending on what your definition of fun is. This adds an additional hour and 37 minutes onto the clock. Now, you might actively seek out the coronavirus after watching that, so I don't know if that's the best bet for you. Moving on to animation. Now, some people consider the animated cartoons to be less worth watching because they are more childish.
Everything's
This is not the case. Please watch all of them. All of them are excellent and worth seeing. Not you, bitch. But while we're at it, I might as well bring up the Ewok cartoon that I so kindly reviewed not too long ago. Really, this is a harmless cartoon that is very obviously meant for children. I know I just went and said that they are not childish, but this is the exception, okay? This is very much meant for like low elementary grade students. How long does it take to watch the Ewok cartoon? The Ewoks takes 6 hours and 49 minutes of your time to complete. Now, a far superior but older cartoon as well is Droids. It came out around the same time as Ewoks, and it follows R2-D2 and C-3PO just bebopping around the galaxy, doing some weird and funky things, interacting with villains like Boba Fett. And it actually has a pretty cool animation style. I like droids. I think that it definitely holds up a lot better for a broader range of audiences than Ewoks. It's shorter though, it only had 1 season as opposed to Ewoks that had 2. Droids only take you about 5 hours and 33 minutes to cruise between all those episodes, and I would say it's worth it. Continuing the trend of non-canon animation, but is a lot more relevant, we've got Clone Wars from 2003. That's Clone Wars, not the Clone Wars. And Clone Wars takes a more Samurai Jack telling of the Clone Wars time period. It consists of significantly shorter segments than we're used to if you've watched the other Clone Wars TV series. And it definitely is beautifully drawn, and there's a lot of symbolism and physical symbolism in this, a lot less dialogue, which kind of holds true to what Star Wars always has been about. Now, the thing with this show is that it definitely leans back on the characterizations that were given more in Attack of the Clones.
And I slaughtered them like animals.
For better or for worse. But Clone Wars only takes about 2 hours and 20 minutes to cruise between, so I would definitely give that a look-see. It's worth it, it's fun, it's fast. Now, before we bounce into canon again, I've got some Lego Star Wars content that shall, soothe your palate of anything that I've exposed you to prior. And this is all going to be broken up by segment, and then I'll tally them all up all together, because really, Lego content is kind of all in the same. So, we've got Revenge of the Brick at 5 minutes and 17 seconds. The Quest for R2-D2 at 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Bombad Bounty at 5 minutes. We have The Padawan Menace at 22 minutes and 5 seconds. We have The Empire Strikes Out at 21 minutes and 23 seconds. The Yoda Trilogy, which comes at a total of 1 hour and 6 minutes. Droid Tales, which is 1 hour and 55 minutes. Resistance Rises, which is 23 minutes and 32 seconds, and the Freemaker Adventures, which comes at a total of 9 hours and 46 minutes. So that is a total of 14 hours and 10 minutes of Lego content to fill your day. And don't get me wrong, it's Legos, but it's still a lot of fun Star Wars energy there. They take a play on what happens in canon as well as make their own adventures too. If you've ever played the Lego Star Wars video games, which of course I hold near and dear to my heart, I highly recommend checking those out. Like, they definitely take a fun little twist on Star Wars. So the Clone Wars movie comes before the Clone Wars TV series, technically. Now, I would argue that this movie is probably the worst of Clone Wars, which isn't exactly hyping you up to watch it, but where do you have to go, really? And it does introduce mainstay Ahsoka Tano, so I'd say that in of itself makes it worth the watch. And if you like Baby Yoda, maybe you'll like Baby Jabba, so. Comes at 1 hour and 38 minutes. It really doesn't, kill you to watch. Up next, though, is the Clone Wars TV series. Now, this is going to take longer than anything else in all of this to watch. This will kill the most time and is personally probably one of my favorite parts of Star Wars canon. After season 1, don't get me wrong, season 1 is a little hard to get through, but, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Season 2 kicks things into overdrive, and it never quite stops after that. It gets insanely good, and honestly, it develops a depth for a lot of these characters and new characters that previously wasn't there in the prequel trilogy. Without breaks, it takes 2 days and 6 hours to complete. Star Wars Rebels is the successor to the Clone Wars and was Disney's creation of animated shows. And it's between episodes 3 and 4 in terms of canon. There's a lot of great new characters here, as well as returning characters from both the Clone Wars and the Star Wars movies. Rebels has a lot to offer. I haven't officially formally reviewed it, but it's one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars media as well. Sometimes it's even better than the Clone Wars at times.
You shut your damn mouth!
To finish it, it's going to take 1 day, 13 hours, and 30 minutes to watch in total, all 4 seasons. Star Wars Resistance is another animated show, and technically the last piece of the animated canon puzzle, for now. And while it's not one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars media, I've not reviewed it, I will eventually, but, I haven't gotten around to it. I'm going to do Rebels before I do Resistance. Resistance is shorter, it's only 2 seasons. It has its audience. I firmly believe it wasn't really made for my age bracket, so I can't really contest it too much. I think it is meant for very little kids. It'll take you 10 hours and 30 minutes to finish and start Star Wars Resistance. So, You know, I hope you guys like it. I, again, am not a huge fan of it. Forces of Destiny is a mini-series centered around female characters, and they're like 2 to 3 minute segments that highlight these characters in different pieces and situations in canon, and other characters show up as well. One of my favorites is between Hera and Han Solo, and they debate whose ship is faster, the Millennium Falcon or the Ghost. It'll take you only about 1 hour and 11 minutes to finish it. Galaxy Adventures is a promotional mini cartoon that aired, and it kind of just shows you bits and snippets of different places in canon, but in an animated format. It's actually really cool looking. It gives you like a almost anime vibe to Star Wars, which I totally watch a Star Wars anime, putting that out there. And it's only about 50 minutes to complete, so just go do it. The Mandalorian hit the market this year and just blew everything up. It changed everything, and it's going to give us more live-action Star Wars content in the horizon. We're getting Kenobi, and we're getting a live-action Rogue One prequel series. I'm very excited for more content. If it's going to be anything like The Mandalorian, I think we are in for some really sweet, sweet Star Wars content in our future. Now, The Mandalorian has 8 episodes to its first season. There's only 1 season right now. Season 2 comes out in October. We have only 5 hours and about 33 minutes to watch, and it is all amazing. If you haven't seen it, go see it. If you have seen it, you could probably use some more Baby Yoda in these times of strife. So as far as accessibility goes, episodes 1 through 8 are available for purchase, as well as on Disney Plus, if you have that subscription. The Mandalorian, Forces of Destiny, the Lego movies and shows are also on there, as well as Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars, of course, and Resistance are on there too. Disney Plus has most of this content. As for the Ewok Adventures, both the Ewoks cartoon and the 2 live-action movies, they're in YouTube on full, as well as the holiday special and droids. So, you know, you're not missing out on your sweet content. Episode 9 just dropped on video on demand, as well as on Amazon for pre-purchase. So you can do that if you want to watch episode 9 to finish your complete saga, I suppose. But that's not the end of our Star Wars content. There is so much other stuff to embrace. I did a video not too long ago, actually very long ago, I don't know why I said that, on the books. Now, I did 5 recommendations of books. I did Leia, Ahsoka, Lost Stars, Thrawn, and From a Certain Point of View. And there are so many other books to watch besides those. I can't recommend enough. I eventually am going to do a video at the end of this year of all the Star Wars books that I read in 2020, because I'm actually reading quite a few. I just got the Rise of Skywalker novelization that I fully plan on cutting through. The moment I heard there was more Jedi Leia stuff, I was like, I'm in. And I'm also reading Alphabet Squadron right now. I read Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. Go read that. That's amazing. I'm just going to say right now that those are amazing choices. Resistance Reborn I read as well by Rebecca Roanhouse. There's just so many books out there that you can just eat up and enjoy, and constantly coming out. E.K. Johnson's prequel to Queen's Shadow, which is amazing, is coming out this year. Dark Disciple, Tarkin, A New Dawn, like Catalyst. There's so many books. The Chuck Wendig trilogy, the Aftermath trilogy. There's so many that you can just dive right into. And I know what you're thinking, like, Courtney, I'm not going to go out and buy these books. But there's this wonderful thing in this world called Kindle, as well as Audible, or any other kind of audiobook service. Now, I'm not promoting them, anything like that, but I do audiobooks religiously. I have long drives to work in my car, so I'm always listening to something. And the Star Wars ones sound like little movies. Like, I said this about the Ahsoka novel before, but it literally plays out like an episode of the Clone Wars, especially because Ashley Eckstein does the reading. There's always like music, and there's just like blaster sounds and lightsaber sounds. It's awesome. This is the way. In addition to regular books, there's comic books. I love the Star Wars comic books. I read them pretty religiously. I'm not as good about them as I used to be. I'm like really behind. But I like the one-off comics especially because they don't require as much effort from me. But the comics just give you a very visual and very visceral piece of Star Wars media. Some of the best stories I think that exist right now take place in comic book. I know everyone loves the new Kylo Ren series. I'm personally a big fan of all the Darth Vader series in comic books. The mainline Star Wars is just awesome. If you want some sweet content, Shattered Empire is one of my favorite one-off comics, as well as, of course, the Leia comic, Obi-Wan and Anakin, the Age of Republic series that I again abandoned very quickly to review, but I did read them. And it's just, there's just so much stuff out there to read. And again, in terms of not having the physical copies at your house, there are plenty of alternatives. There are, of course, websites where you can read them. I'm not wholeheartedly recommending them because they're technically illegal, but you can definitely find comics online. But there's also comicbooks.com where you can actually get the digital copies of these as well, and you can get them from pretty cheap is in addition to that.
I have spoken.
Last but not least, we have video games. Now, video games in this awesome day and age, you can get them digital, so that kind of answers your question in terms of how you acquire them. If you have a game system, you know, you can play video games. I have a GameCube, I have a Switch, and I have a PlayStation 4 currently plugged in to my TV. Now, PlayStation 4 wise, it's pretty obvious. You got your Battlefront 2, and your Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which again, I will review at some point in the given future. I just have totally lost track of time, and I suck at video games. So, but Battlefront, waste of time. Battlefront 2, at least there is a campaign. It's pretty. They've definitely done a lot to add to Battlefront 2. There's a lot of new campaigns and stuff that apparently the game's a lot better now. I honestly have not touched it after I've completed the main campaign, and sue me, I'm sorry. I have a hard time going back to games that have left a bad taste in my mouth, even if they fix stuff retroactively. Fallen Order is amazing. Play that. That's just such a good time. The Lego video games, of course, circle around too. I know there isn't really anything available for the Switch in terms of that yet. Rise of the Skywalker Saga one is coming later this year, but I have a GameCube, so I have the 1, 2, and then I have a Wii as well. I guess I should have added that. So I have the complete saga, and then I have the Clone Wars video game as well. But those are available on PS Now and PlayStation. So totally accessible if you don't even have the old systems. PlayStation also has some old games as well. Oh, I lied. I'm sorry. Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast is available on the Switch. That is an old Star Wars video game that is available on the Switch. I have the digital download of it, so it's pretty sweet. If you want to get back into the world of Kyle Katarn, I definitely recommend. PlayStation has a ton of old video games. I have the Pod Race video game on there. I'm pretty sure they have the Jedi Outcast games on there as well. There's a whole lot. Force Unleashed is on PlayStation Now. Definitely worth checking out. 1 and even 2. So there's just so many options for you out there. Play your video games. And if you're looking for some weird out-of-the-box video game experience, you can always play my Mario Maker Star Wars levels. They're not very good, but I'll leave the codes in there for you. If you got Mario Maker 2, check it out. Why not? In this time, it's easy to get stressed out and it's easy to get upset. So I think it's important to surround ourselves in our home with the things that we love and with the things that make us happy. And I just think that as long as we give ourselves that self-care of surrounding ourselves with the things we like and stimulating ourselves with those things, we're going to be okay. And as long as we rise each other up as far as instead of tearing each other down, I again think we're going to be in good business. Now, I'm going to go play some Animal Crossing and, listen to the Rise of Skywalker audiobook, because why not? May the Force be with you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy. Have a great day.